Hello everyone, good morning and welcome back to the new episode of the Hindu Explainer series. I am Kushagra Goel. Now yesterday a lot of you did watch the Great Conjunction and we'll be discussing that today. A lot of facts for you all to note down, right? But before that, a lot of interesting questions from you all in the comment section. So yesterday we discussed the RBI monetary policy and a lot of suggestions within that, right? So the first, I'll be addressing doubts regarding that. There are related topics within it. So I'll be covering them in a flow rather than distinguishing them separately, okay? So with regards to the editorial in general, one student had a doubt that what does banning the closing the borders in the short term leads to growth, but in the long term is not a great policy. So that was a statement from the main editorial by C. Rangarajan, right? That means that see, growth, a sustainable growth can happen in economy when it is not based on demand domestically but is based on investment from other countries, because that is going to multiply the wealth, okay? When, what do I mean by aggregate demand or domestic demand? So for example, today 40,000 students give CLAT examination, right? And then there are approximately 3 to 4,000 seats for NLUs, approximately you can take 5,000. So that is the demand. 40,000 students appearing for NLUs is a demand for law seats, okay? That is domestic demand, right? But so that is the scope of growth, that is domestic demand. Similarly, for example, with regards to produce LPG or petroleum, okay? So based on that, the aggregate demand is based on how many people want to buy or travel by petroleum based or fossil fuel based vehicles. That is domestic demand. But after a point of time, once everybody's demand is satisfied, for example, 40,000 seats are allocated, or everyone has a vehicle and petroleum price are stabilized for it. So after that, there will be no growth. Growth by meaning that once 40,000 students have been satisfied, all of them got there, then what next? How do you sustain that growth, okay? So there will be growth from 5,000 to 40,000, that is growth. Once you have reached there, what will happen then? How will you inculcate more jobs after that? Because see, populations are growing in general. The demand of people, once you have reached one level, you want to aspire for a higher level, okay? So for that you need more investment from outside. But if you are closing borders, then that was something that will not happen. Foreign direct investment is a substitute for that. Once, with regards to your domestic demand, you need international support also. So that is FDI, okay? So that is exactly what the editorial meant when you are closing down borders. Once you close down borders, you can satisfy the growth after a point, like once you have reached that point. But after that, you need more, okay, to satisfy global market. So for example, China, after it had satisfied its internal markets, opened its economies, started manufacturing for the entire world, right? So that has helped China grow. So only, and we also liberalized our economy in 1991 because we felt the growth was not enough, right? So that is exactly what that statement meant. Another point a student asked was with regards to how do these zero interest products or banks earn when they provide zero interest loans. Now, if you had ever gone and checked how to actually avail a zero interest product, you will be sent or further sent to a different bank, okay? For example, Bajaj Finserv or SBI, they will ask you to take an annual card, okay? So for taking that card, you will pay a fee, okay? Now that card fee is something that will go on till the time you discontinue the card. So even if you haven't purchased any product after a point of time, the bank is still earning by you availing that card facility, okay? And if so many people take the card, then they are earning some money, okay, which is better than zero money, because nobody is actually taking the loans because they are expensive. So this is a different model. You provide a service for free, but actually then within that you take payment. So for example, most of the applications that you have on Google are free, right? But then within that, for certain specific services or to remove advertisements, you have to pay more. So that is a different business mechanism. Banks employ the same thing. You can take multiple products for 0% interest, but for that you have to take a card. Now to take that card you have to pay us a fee. That fee you have to pay, for example, just like you have to pay for account maintenance. So if you ever ask your parents, ask them how much maintenance fee they pay to the bank annually for opening the account. That kind of fee is where banks earn apart from loans, okay. So that is another business model. Another question a lot of students had was with regards to the RBI monetary policy, right? Now, how questions can be framed? So a simple question is, if the bank increases the value of interest rate, how does that affect the money supply in the economy? It reduces the money supply in the economy. When credit becomes expensive, less people will spend that money or take that money. That is a method of reducing money supply. Similarly, RBI moratorium, right? We discussed that. Now, one interesting question was, why did the bank had to go to the Supreme Court? The bank didn't go to the Supreme Court. The people went to the Supreme Court because earlier, to avail the RBI loan moratorium, you had to pay an extra interest. But the Supreme Court asked the central government to waive this fee on loan moratoriums. That means that banks had given loans but were not earning interest for this time period from the lockdown till September, October, till when the scheme existed. It is still existing, but now the conflict is whether you have to pay interest for availing the scheme or not, okay. So banks earn money through interest. This was a scheme they provided. Why was it part of the monetary policy? Because it was people, rather than departing from their hard cash to give it to the banks, they could use it for their own demand, okay. So that is how questions can be asked, application based questions on how monetary policy affects money supply. How are these schemes beneficial for different sections of the society, or what was the loan moratorium scheme? So those are questions that can be discussed or asked in the passage. That is why it becomes important to discuss them, okay. Now, another question a lot of you had was with regards to the Nepal crisis and the constitution, right? So now there are more details flowing in. It is not yet a confirmed story, okay. Once it is confirmed, more detailed analysis of that I will provide, okay. But today we will be discussing that crisis in a little bit short, okay. Now, I had made a suggestion for you all yesterday, okay. So here is this book that I had suggested, a small pocket book for the constitution, okay, of PM Bakshi. So this is a book that I was gifted by an advocate for whom I was working at the Supreme Court. But for you all, it is my hearty suggestion that you have this copy, because see, it has all the sections of the constitution. Wherever you come across any of them, you go, keep the book open, read this article, then you will be able to appraise it more, okay. This is an advice that will be helpful for you all throughout your law schools and beyond that, okay, to have a copy of the constitution in general. Now, moving on, a lot of you also had suggestion about the timing of the video, okay. So it is our promise, every day we will be able to provide you the video by 11 to 11:30 AM, okay. Doing it earlier than that is something that we are working on, because we do it at the office, and asking office employees who work otherwise also very hard throughout the day to come earlier and then stay till 8 is something that we have to work out with the office people, okay. So that is something, it is in the concept and we are working on it, and hopefully by January we will be able, or even before that during Christmas time also, we will be able to provide you with the video by 10 AM itself, okay. Now let's move on to today's newspaper, okay. So on the front page, before we do an in-depth analysis, here is the great conjunction and a certain facts related to it, okay. So that is something I suggest all of you should note down. So as I said, this was an opportunity that came after 400 years. Exactly, it was 367, because the last time the great conjunction was recorded by whom? Great scientist, astronomer Galileo, okay. It was in 1623 that he recorded it. Galileo also recorded the 4 moons of Jupiter, Io, Europa, Ganymede and Callisto, okay. So that is also something you have to keep in note. What made yesterday's day historic was also because this was the day when the earth moves into the winter solstice, that is the sun starts entering the northern hemisphere again after for 6 months staying closer to the southern hemisphere, okay. and the distance separating the two planets yesterday was 1/10 of a degree. Okay, so that was the closest they have been. The first observation of the Great Conjunction was in 1226. Okay, so that is something that you all should note down. Who recorded the last Great Conjunction? Galileo in 1623. Okay, why was this year's Great Conjunction unique? Because it also was along with the winter solstice. Okay, what is the Great Conjunction? It is the closest coming together of Saturn and Jupiter. Now a simple question a lot of you can ask is, Saturn and Jupiter are rotating the Earth and they do come together approximately 20 to 30 years time every year, in every 20 to 30 years, but it is the distance with which they came the closest that matters and creates the Great Conjunction. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Any other doubts regarding to it, feel free to put it in the comment section. Now there is a new strand of the coronavirus that has been discovered. We'll be discussing that. That has affected, has banned, India also yesterday banned flights to and fro UK. A lot of countries have done the same. More cases for the new strain has been discovered. We'll be talking about it in a little bit more depth. Okay, the markets also plunged because of this, because there is more threat. Now then House panel moves for law to keep a check on private hospitals. Now this is something with regards to how during pandemic private hospitals have charged more money for treatment. Okay, so that is something that is under consideration. It is by a parliamentary committee itself. Okay, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Home Affairs. Okay, who heads it? Anand Sharma, a Congress leader. Okay, the report has been submitted to Venkaiah Naidu. Certain amendments have been suggested to the National Disaster Relief Management Act. Okay, so this is again suggestion, but that is something you can keep in mind, make a note of it. Okay, apart from that, more political news is here for us. Okay, now on the national front, again there is one news that we will be discussing, which is the Innovation for SDG award that has been given by UNDP. Okay, we'll be discussing this news in a little bit more depth. There are certain facts that you all need to know about it. Okay, and then apart from that, on the national front there is not much for it. Today is also the centenary year of the Aligarh Muslim University's foundation. Okay, Prime Minister Modi will be attending and giving a speech there on the 100 years. Tomorrow we'll be discussing a little bit of history of AMU and why was it significant, because see, certain facts related to the university were pioneering in its own self when it was established in during the national movement. Okay, so that is something we will discuss tomorrow. Apart from that, on the farmer protest, nothing no update have come out. Okay, the farmers have started their own newspaper which is known as Trolley Times. Okay, the farmers will be discussing about that and its validity and approach towards the protest today itself. Okay, so once that comes, we'll discuss about it. Okay, now on the editorial front. On the editorial front, the main editorial is about politics of Tamil Nadu. In 2021, the elections for assembly in Tamil Nadu will take place. This will be the first election that will be without Jayalalitha and M. Karunanidhi, two pioneers of the Dravidian politics from DMK and AIDMK. But that is it for us. Apart from that, on the left hand side, Nepal politics is something we will be discussing. So this editorial and the second one, virus variant, okay, which is discussing the new variant of the coronavirus, we will be discussing that too. Now on the left hand side, you see key steps to get the spectrum auction right. Now see, this is again a policy suggestion to the government. New spectrum auctions will be taking place in 2021. The 2016 auctions were considered a failure because the government set a goal of 50,000 $50 billion as collection, but only got 1/10 out of it, and there were a lot of non-takers for different spectrum megahertz. Okay, so that is just a policy suggestion, nothing concrete for us. Also, 22nd December is known as the National Mathematics Day in remembrance of Srinivasa Ramanujan. Okay, we'll be discussing about his legacy in a little bit more depth today. So on the left hand side, it is lessons from Monash. This is about the National Education Policy, okay, the NEP 2020. Under this, new foreign universities can establish their campuses in India, okay. But this is a lesson from Monash University campus established in South Africa, okay, of how originally it was established by Monash, but then it was taken over by private companies of South Africa itself, okay. So this is just telling us how government needs to even frame rules to prevent that, because even though the name can be the same, the quality of education, the facilities, the innovation, research and the ownership, all of that can quickly change hands. So the government needs to remain vigilant for that, okay. So one thing that you can keep in mind from the national education policy, it does permit foreign universities to open campuses in India, okay. Then on the left hand side, humans are still core to the digital India. Intermediaries who deliver last mile governance establish trust between governments and citizens, okay. What does this editorial say? It states that, see, even though for digital India, individuals are empowered to do things on their own. So for example, this draws is suggestions from the lessons during the lockdown, that even if during the lockdown it was people who could do their recharge on their own, pay bills online, citizens mostly trusted someone to do it for them because they were not that equipped. It is stating that, see, for digital India expansion, what is necessary is to have these last mile individuals. So for example, even for mutual funds, banking, loan facility, you still have someone at the bank whom you can contact, right? Even for any technology, customer support is something that helps you for the last mile delivery. Just like for Uber, Zomato, Swiggy, the connect between technology is actually at the end a human, right? You trust that human to do the last mile delivery, and that is something that this editorial is saying, that for real impact and expansion of digital India, India needs to have last mile delivery intermediaries who will be the point of contact between the citizens and the government for service provided, okay. So it's a policy editorial, not much relevance apart from, because see, with regards to the digital India plan, it is something that needs to be discussed in general, okay. The cartoon is, believe me, MSP will stay, farm laws are good for you, okay. So this is Prime Minister Modi addressing different Kisan Sabhas in different states, but not actually ever talking to the farmers who are protesting in Delhi, which is stating the distance between the Prime Minister and the protesting farmers, okay. The data point discusses lows of India and how the current test performance in Adelaide, which was the lowest total of India, is something that has been consistent under Virat Kohli as captain of the test cricket team, okay. That at pitches in South Africa, England, New Zealand, Australia, Indian batting has been consistently poor, okay. So the data point reflects that, okay. Now moving on to other national news. Most of it is political, not really relevant for us. Kerala will hold a special assembly session to repeal the farm laws or create methods so that it does not apply, okay. Then from the national page also the same news is expanding, but nothing really relevant for us here, okay. Then see, I told you farmers will take a decision about the trolley times, plus their discussion about talking to the government once again, okay. So that is something that will be decided today. Whether that really creates the end to the impasse is something that we'll have to find out. Yesterday was also a sad day for the Congress party. A veteran Congress leader, Motilal Vora, passed away yesterday. He was the two-time chief minister of the undivided state of Madhya Pradesh. He was also the governor of state of Uttar Pradesh, a treasurer of the Congress party for 16 years, and his passing away was condoled not only by the members of the Congress party, but by the current administration, the government of India, which is governed by Bharatiya Janata Party, and the president also conveying his condolences on his passing away, okay. So tomorrow also is the results for the DDC poll in Jammu and Kashmir. So that is something we have to keep an eye on. Now the government has stated about being vigilant to the new virus strain. That is something we will be discussing. Then another news about a naval system and deck based aircraft carrier for the Navy, okay. That is also something we will be talking about in depth, okay. Then there are grand plans for Subhash Chandra Bose 125th anniversary. It was on the 125th anniversary of Srinivasa Ramanujan that the day was commemorated as National Mathematics Day. 23rd January is the birth date of Subhash Chandra Bose. So, there are plans to celebrate it on a grand stage for year long. Okay. Moving on, international front, more and more analysis of the crisis in Nepal. I will be discussing all of this along with the editorial. These are more political analysis of the event, of why it had taken place, all of that. In brief, I will talk about it. Okay. Then here is another update that you all should note down. The exercise between China and Pakistan's Air Force is known as Shaheen 9 or Eagle 9. Okay. It is a joint military exercise of the Pakistan Air Force and the Chinese Air Force. Okay. So, that is something that needs to be kept in mind. It has taken place while there is border conflict going on between India and China. Okay. So, Shaheen 9 or Eagle 9. Okay. Then again, let up in unlikely in Xinjiang. This is the province where Uyghur Muslims are being jailed. Approximately 10 million Uyghur Muslims have been kept in jail since 2014. Okay. On the economics front, again, there is not much policy update for us. There are suggestions for what to be done in the union budget for 2021-22. That is something that we have to discuss. On the left hand side, here is a case that is going on between Amazon and Reliance and Future on one side and Amazon on the other. Okay. So, this is an ongoing thing. As you know, Future Group has sold its, for example, the brand that is very popular, Big Bazaar, to Reliance Retail. Okay. Reliance Retail is known as Reliance Fresh. So, that sale has taken place. Amazon has disputed it. Okay. So, there are two disputes going on alongside, an international arbitration and a court case in India. So, once there are more concrete details, we will talk about this dispute in a little bit more depth. Okay. On the sporting front, again, discussion about the test series of India, not much relevance for us. Another thing, the Indian Open, the badminton tournament, will be the last qualifying tournament for the Olympics. Okay. So, that is something that has been declared. Apart from that, there is not much update for us here. Okay. So, now let us dive into in-depth analysis. Okay. So, the first thing that we are going to discuss is the Innovate for Sustainable Development Goals Award. Okay. It is brought by UNDP under its Accelerated Lab program. Okay. Along with that, in India, who supports this mission is the Atal Innovation Mission. This comes under the Niti Aayog. Okay. This is something you can note down. Who sponsors the Accelerated Lab program? Qatar, Germany and United Nations Development Program. Who has been given the award this year? IIT Delhi. For what? Plant-based mock eggs. What does this mean? See, this is when you create proteins, meat that is plant-based. Okay, most of the meat that humans eat is actually extracted from animals, right? Eggs, chicken, mutton or buffalo meat, okay, which is very popular in the West. So, because of consumption of that meat creates a lot of carbon emissions, okay, because to sustain such amount of high level of cattle, you have to clear forest, you have to maintain artificial grasslands that are not sustainable, and then you also, there are unnecessary unhealthy practices and excesses that are carried out on animals, which affects animal rights. There is research going on to create plant-based meat, meat that tastes just like the meat of animals, but is actually extracted from plant proteins. See, how do we are the secondary level of on the food chain, okay, plants, then herbivores and then us, right? Similarly, the animals that are eaten for meat consumption are also secondary. They consume the plants and then we consume them, okay. So, the nutrients that those animals actually get is from plants. So, directly rather than eating meat of animals, humans can extract all those nutritions by consuming different plants. By consuming them at one place, those kinds of nutritional food which are plant based meats is what the research is all about. Okay, so IIT Delhi has been given this award which earns them 5,000 US dollars as prize money also. Okay, so that is something that we have to keep in mind. The center of IIT Delhi that won the award is Center for Rural Development and Technology. Most of the meat rearing industries are located in rural areas. So, Center for Rural Development and Technology, the award is Innovate for Sustainable Development Goals, Accelerator Lab of UNDP plus Atal Innovation Mission of Niti Aayog. Okay. The next thing is this headline: Super Hornets fighter jets being tested for Navy use. What are Super Hornets fighter jets? It's a Boeing aircraft which is twin engine. Okay, FA-18 Super Hornet by Boeing, a US based company. Okay, under their program Buy India for India, that is to make aircraft for India within India only. Okay, so Navy needs fighter deck aircrafts for its aircraft carriers. We have as of now one functional aircraft carrier and one that is in tests. Okay, who are those? Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant. Vikrant is the first indigenously made aircraft carrier. Why do we need these aircrafts? Is because of a system that our aircraft carriers have. Okay, what is that system known as? STOBAR, Indian Navy's short takeoff and but arrested recovery system. Okay, so Indian aircraft decks are shorter in length. Okay, and therefore there is a need of aircrafts that can take off at shorter decks. Decks is the length of the runway at aircraft carriers. Okay, so that is something that is in discussion. Navy originally had plans to buy 57 such aircrafts. Now that has been reduced by 36. Why has that happened? Because DRDO is also planning to create indigenous developed fighter aircrafts of twin engine. Okay, the LCA Tejas that we have, indigenously created fighter aircraft, is single engine, not twin engine. Okay, so therefore by 2026 the DRDO plans to have that for indigenously made. That is why as of now the need is for 36. The Boeing is vouching to have that contract. Okay, but what becomes most important is this system on the aircraft carriers that you need to know, because all of this is speculative news, not actually have been bought by India. Okay, so therefore this is the most important thing that you have to note down. STOBAR, Indian Navy short takeoff but arrested recovery system. Okay, now moving on to the new COVID strain. Okay, strain is what is the DNA or RNA structure of the virus. Okay, this change in this creates a change in the virus. Okay, the virus has its own biological structure. Change in that DNA RNA creates a new strain of the virus. There are hundreds of strains, but this new one is considered to be spreading far more and has a speed of spreading far more. That is why concern has been raised. Okay, what is the name of this new strain? It is VUI 2020-12/01 or N501Y. Remember this short form far more than the long one. Okay, note this down. Now what is the most important change in this strain? Okay, there are in total from the original COVID-19 virus that was found in Wuhan, this strain has 23 variations, but within that makes it most distinct from those is the change in the spike protein. If we have seen images of the coronavirus, it has spike proteins on its structure. Okay, on which sticks to our body cells. Okay, this sticking of spike proteins, okay, of the virus on our body cells is what makes us come in contact with COVID-19 virus. Okay, so therefore this is the strain, the name. It is not yet known whether the vaccines that have been approved as of now are effective against protection for this strain of the virus. Okay, that is not yet known. What is also not yet known is the whether this strain creates more mortality rate, whether this actually scientifically spreads more, okay. So how do you find it? Apart from doing the RT-PCR test, you have to also do the gene sequencing of the virus. So once it is confirmed you have the COVID virus, what is the structure of that COVID virus is something developed countries do far more than what India has done. So we do not yet know whether Indian patients already possess this new strain of the coronavirus, okay. So there is a lot of unknowns. What you need to know is that the name of the virus and the change in spike protein structure, which is most prominent. As and when more details come out, we will talk about it. In the description, I will link a video from the Vox website, from Seeker website, okay. They have explained what do strain means, okay. So that is something you all can know. It is a very renowned channel from Discovery itself, okay. Discovery and therefore it is very scientifically reliable. So to understand the definition of strain, I suggest that you all should watch it, okay, because they'll be able to explain it far more. It's in general for you to understand what it really means. It's not suggest, it is a mere suggestion, but for your preparation these two things become most important. That is for your extra knowledge, okay, that I will put in the description box. Now moving on to Srinivasa Ramanujan, okay, renowned mathematician, okay. Today is his 133rd birth anniversary. Since when are we celebrating the National Mathematics Day? Since 2012, when we were Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had announced this, okay. Under whom did or along with whom did Ramanujan work that made him or who recognized his importance? It was G.H. Hardy, okay. He was one of the most prominent mathematicians whom he worked with and whose work Ramanujan influenced also, because Ramanujan passed away at a very early age, okay. Then who is the biographer of Ramanujan? It is Robert Kennigill, okay. There is a book, The Man Who Knew Infinity. There is also a movie on him by the same name, okay. If you don't know anything about Ramanujan, it is a brilliant movie to know about him and his character and how he, without any formal training of maths at all, was able to come up with these mathematical theorems, okay. There is a journal under which all his work is there, approximately 3,900 to 4,000 mathematical theorems and results is what he had produced without actual training of maths, okay. It is known as the Ramanujan Journal. Shastra University in Tamil Nadu at his birthplace have a museum also for him, okay. So these are more of the details. I highly recommend you all should watch this movie, because see, anything about great Indians, it's something that you all should know about, and it's a beautiful movie by Indian origin actor Dev Patel being the protagonist, okay. It is available on Amazon Prime and also YouTube, okay. If you don't know, you should know, okay. It is something that is helpful. Now what are most important things? What is the day, his birth year, 1887 December 22nd. Who did he work along with? G.H. Hardy. Infinity number, different, there are multitudes of things that he did about, but infinity and number theories are two of his most prominent things that are known to general public, okay. Who was his biographer? Robert Kennigill, okay. And the book that he wrote was The Man Who Knew Infinity, okay. Now we'll discuss the Nepal constitutional crisis, okay. The Nepal constitutional crisis, as of now, all things that you need to know. What is Nepal? Nepal is a parliamentary republic, okay. It has a government that is based on parliament. The head of the state is elected. Who are the elected heads? The president is Bidya Devi Bhandari and the prime minister was K.P. Sharma Oli. He was from the Nepal Communist Party. The new constitution of Nepal had come into being on 20th September 2015. This was the government that was elected just after the first constitution, okay. But now K.P. Sharma Oli has suggested to the prime minister, to the president, to dissolve the assembly and conduct new elections. That has been accepted by the president, okay. But petitions have been filed against this suggestion. Who has filed the petitions? member of his own party, Nepal Communist Party. Why have they filed? Because Nepal's constitution says you can only dissolve the assembly when there is a hung assembly, that is, no party has been given majority or no party actually forms the government. KP Sharma Oli, it is suggested that he wanted to dissolve the assembly because he wants to consolidate power in the Nepal Communist Party, and he was unwilling to share power with his colleagues of the party. Okay, so that is political knowledge. What we need to know is what is the constitutional mandate, and the petitions will be decided by the Supreme Court. They are being registered, they will be heard. So more developments when they really come, that becomes more important. Political analysis of the things of why Oli did it, what was the catalyst. It is considered that one, he was not willing to share power with his party colleagues, and secondly, he wants to divert attention from the slowing economy and his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so those are political reasons, but the things that we really need to know are these. Okay, we'll be following this story alongside. So that is it from my side today. Thank you so much. If you like the video, we really love and appreciate your like for it. Thank you so much for it, and feel free to put your doubts in the comment section. I will respond to all of them on a daily basis. The summary videos for months are in order. In January, we'll do all of them. Okay, and because it makes more sense once it is closer to the exam to do revision videos. Okay, as of now the series is going on, but revision videos makes more sense when they are closer to the examination. With regards to your suggestions for the Middle East crisis and the Paris agreement, that is something I have noted down. Whenever there is less update in the daily newspaper, we'll be covering those topics too. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe to the channel if you want to don't miss the update for tomorrow. Thank you.